morning. Thank you for showing up, even if it was a late night. I'm going to spend the next 20-ish minutes talking about identity and why that's a missing link when it comes to deploying AI agents in production. Right now, all we see out there is mostly demos, mostly kind of YouTubers kind of showing you how to vibe code it, and like behind the scenes, there's not really a lot of them live in production, like at large scale, and there's a reason for it. We're going to talk about it today. Trust enables that autonomy that you need to break through when it comes to agentic AI. So, first, a little bit about me and about Civic. I've been 15 years working on startups mostly, 7, 8 of those in crypto. Been building deep learning before LLMs were even a thing, back in 2016. Then I did my own thing with an AI startup using RAG, if you know what RAG is. Now it's like a pretty common way to retrieve data with the help of AI agents. We did that when GPT-3 came out, just to kind of date that. It's like 2021, 2022. And then I came back to Civic to help build Auth-N and Auth-Z, which is like authentication and authorization for non-human identities, which is a technical way of saying like giving AI some sort of ID, some sort of label or name to be able to identify it. At Civic, we started off in identity back 10 years ago, so way back when. There was no identity standards back then. We worked on the decentralized IDs as standards, verifiable credentials as standards, where we saw OAuth rising as a standard. If you've ever implemented the authentication, we were contributing some of those early standards. And now we've shifted our focus to building tools for agentic AI because we believe now AI and crypto are merging in a very, very interesting way. And you'll see that at the end of my presentation, where I think the future is going, where we think the future is going when it comes to adding identity and authentication to agentic AI with crypto as the payment rails. So that's kind of like a small preview of where this is going. So let's start with a thought experiment. And if the bank that you're working with would overnight just add an AI agent that can be tracked, cannot be identified, and that agent has access to all of your information, would you be fine with that? Would you be okay with that? Essentially, it would be able to do any kind of change based on the logic that it wants. I wouldn't. I would say like this is not something I would want. I would want at least the bank to know what that agent is doing, not at like a central level, but more like at individual level, at action level is possible, at prompt level is possible. Because like that trust that we give to these tools and to people comes with like, who is doing this? Who is behind this? Like what's going on? Not necessarily the what that an agent will do, essentially. So this is the current barrier of entry when it comes to agentic AI and AI tools in general, and honestly, digital tools in general at the beginning as well, is whenever you want to bring in a new tool, even though that capability is exploding and everybody's kind of like following the hype and whatnot, I want to bring in a new tool to my company, guess who I have to talk to? Compliance, IT. It's like, hey, can I bring this thing in? Well, the first question is like, do you know what this will do? No, okay, great, then find out what it does and then come back. Does it have access to all our information? Yeah, where is that going? Is that going to a certain server somewhere? Well, if it is, then can we stop it? If that answer is no, then probably you can't integrate that tool in a bigger company. And that's a massive breaker for adoption. I think that's the biggest breaker right now, is like if you don't know what the tool does, and some of the AI deployments are black boxes, then you can't really go to production with it. And we believe identity is that bridge, where if you're able to bring in your tool and you're able to put a label on it, like an identifier on it, and then track each of its actions, and then guardrail it, and then protect it from attacks, then you have a much better chance of passing that compliance test or passing that IT requirements like SOC 2 or whatever you're using for that as a bigger company. But essentially, identity unlocks these real-world use cases for agentic AI. Now, what does that mean? I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes. So let's talk about the problem first. Because agents lack this verifiable identity, There's no way to revoke what they did because you don't know what actually they did. There's no way to roll back changes. Like if you give AI unlimited write data to your database, it might just decide that your database is like expendable and delete it. Or your code base is expendable or not good and delete it. I don't know if you guys remember a Silicon Valley show. Who knows the show? All right. There was an episode where Guilfoyle essentially set up Son of Anton, which was their internal AI agent. And then Son of Anton essentially decided to delete all the code. And this was like, what, 5-6 years ago in terms of like when the show was released. And now we see this happening with vibe coders, just like, oh, I'm just going to update everything with auto-approve. And then you end up with 3 files. And you started off with, I don't know, 20,000 lines of code. So you want to be able to know which agent did what, when, what changes they did, and then roll back those changes if they were wrong. That's why they're stuck in sandbox environments right now. They're kind of ring-fenced by nature in terms of, hey, it can only go in this database in this particular space because we don't trust it to see all the production data. And that's a big issue. And then this is what it all comes back to, is like IT will need to see those credentials. It's like, what authorization, what authentication does this AI have? Is it tied to the person that's unleashing it, or is it like an independent entity? Either way, they need to know. And it's good that they need to know. So what does identity really mean from this perspective? So you need to have a place to store that identity. So it starts with a wallet. You need to have credentials, so whatever is put in that wallet. So is it government IDs? Is it proofs of assets? Is it like attestations that were signed? You name it. And you need to have some sort of verification APIs to enable to check those credentials, whether they're still valid or not, or to have an independent way of checking those credentials, and that's in the ID standard, for example, you have a cryptographic element that you can check, or in the passport, right? There's like also a challenge, or in your credit card there's a challenge that you can tap into. So why is this relevant now? Well, big companies are implementing AI more and more. I don't know if you guys heard, but last week there was a big breach, I would say, not really a breach, more like a company-wide bug. So Asana integrated AI into their internal processes, and they did not take into account there would be cross-contamination between individual clients' data. So company A's data ended up in company B's responses, even though company B was expecting their own response to be with their own data based on their prompt. Pretty big snafu, I would say. And this was not for like any hacker coming in or anything. It was just a logic flaw in the way they implemented the MCP server. And I would say also comes down to the authorization and the authentication that they did behind that AI agent, because they centralized everything around a single server, and then they commingled client data in that whole context. I mean, MCP, have you guys heard about MCP, what that is? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I have a slide about that too. It's the Model Context Protocol. It's a way of interacting with data from an agentic AI perspective that Anthropic released last year. There are now, like, I think, over 40,000 MCP servers out there, and it's growing every day. And it's becoming now implemented in production in companies like Asana. And it becomes like the crown jewel for attackers. Like, be it a prompt injection, be it like even exploiting a logic flaw, you're able to essentially exfiltrate data in a scalable way from larger orgs. That gets pretty scary from that perspective. So I think there's four things that you can do, like today when you're thinking about AI agents, is like, how do you implement them? Discover endpoints, lock scopes, which means like what can that AI do? And then real-time monitoring, super important. We do it now with our servers. We should do it also with the AI servers. Make sure we know what they're doing. And then try to break it. That's all the red team flow is about. It's like, try to break your AI. See if you can get, as company A, you can get companies B data in your sandbox before you release that to production, I would say. That's the learning from this breach. So this is a pretty big deal last week. So let's talk about some use cases from an identified guardrailed AI agent perspective. This is more of a fictional one, and I'm going to show you also a one in production. So let's say you want an AI agent to draft, add copy, and then get images as well. You want to spend under $500 for this. So you essentially set up those guardrails initially, you put that spending cap, you auto-block the limits, then you make sure the AI only has access to non-personal information data in your database, so you keep that data separate, segregated, and you only restrict them to marketing-specific data stores. And then at the end of it, what you should get is when the spending cap is reached, in this case, $497, let's say, when the next call is made to buy another image, it's like, hey, you've exceeded your limit already by the simulation of this particular next transaction, therefore you're now blocked, give me the final deliverables. And this should be the framework where we build agentic AI. Now let's look at one specific one from the real estate space. You can now close a real estate deal in under 24 hours with the help of agentic AI. And this is actually a use case live in production with Proppy. Do you guys know what Proppy is? No, okay. It's an ICO from 2017. It's a crypto company that put real estate transactions on chain. They're not doing a super high volume, but they've been consistent over time, and they're one of the survivors of 2017's ICO craze. It's like before meme coins, before NFTs, there were ICOs in crypto. So they're able to reduce manual steps by 70%. They're able to close in 24 hours, and they pass all the kind of identity and compliance checks with the way they're using agentic AI to be able to create that escrow, to verify all the documents, verify all the participants. Super cool use case. If you haven't seen it, Proppy real estate, check it out. So coming back to Model Context Protocol, I know not everyone knows what it is. It's essentially USB-C for AI. That's, I think, the best way to describe it. Anthropic calls it that. I think that's the best way to do it. If you're more technical, it's JSON RPC for agents with verification. It's a very, very descriptive way of calling it. You can essentially add fine-grained scopes to it, and then they have an open source roadmap. It's very community-driven from that perspective. They've added OAuth to it. You kind of have to build your own ship around it. It's kind of like a Linux style, like kind of build your own spec around it. So that's why a lot of us are building on top of it to help more devs build faster, essentially. So what does a secure MCP server look like with Civic Auth or with any auth, to be fair? Like, you want to bring in a method that's compliant with auth because you want to be able to talk the same language. You want to have an easy integration, so SDK, drop in with a few lines of code, get a single client ID, that kind of stuff. You want to have it be framework agnostic, so like you can replace Civic Auth with any auth. You can like add Keycloak, you can add any other open source solution if you want, but it's just easier with this tool, I would say. And then you want to be able to use it in multiple frameworks. So if you're building in Node or Next or React, React Native, or even in Python, you have to be able to integrate that particular tooling in. And then obviously, because I mean we're working with coders here, SDKs, you want to have a CLI, command line interface for authentication. And this makes it, in our opinion, the fastest way to add authorization and authentication to MCP servers. So in this case, if I use, in my company, if I use Claude's desktop, let's say, I'm able to connect into my Gmail, connect into my calendar, and then retrieve, for example, the emails from the past week from my account, and also the calendar notes from last week, and then create a weekly report, just like that, in a few minutes, instead of me having to go through like, oh, what did I do this week? Let me go through my notes, let me go through my emails manually and whatnot. And I'm sure, because I'm authenticated, and the AI is only authorized to access my emails and my calendar, it doesn't go and retrieve my colleague's emails, or my colleague's calendar, or my colleague, when they do it, they don't get access to my emails. And in some cases, like, might be an email about them. So you might not want that. We're also launching something really cool now. It's called Civic Labs. It's essentially a way to experiment with code in a kind of sandbox environment, add guardrails, add prompt protection to your AI, create a proxy to manage all these processes, and then also a kind of AI agent companion alpha. You can try all these tools out if you go to our dev docs, but we're super excited about them. What I describe now, the fact that I can go in and create that meeting report in like few easy steps, is a result of the MCP hub, for example. You can go and request access to it, and you can deploy it in your own sandbox and try it out. So we're looking for feedback. We may or may not have bounties for it, so check it out. So I promised a vision of the future at the beginning of the presentation. I think beyond 2025, we're going to have agents that can book travel for us. I think we're going to have agents that can help us sign leases, even like escrow with crypto. And then I think we're going to have agents that can file taxes for us, for those who have to do that. And there's something that's really bringing things together in the space. Like, I think beyond identity, beyond authentication authorization, we've seen a standard that was very, very unknown be kind of brought back to life with crypto as the rails. Who here knows 404? You know 404 when you get an error like, hey, page not found? Okay, so at the beginning of the internet, there was another standard that very few people know about called 402, which is payment not found, which was meant to do metering for certain like pages or resources that are gated behind some sort of paywall. That was impractical back then because online payments did not exist. But then online payments came about through intermediaries. We have a lot of like these payment processors. It's still non-trivial to deploy. When USDC came out and USDT and like all these stable coins came out on blockchain rails, then this became practical. So I think it was like last month, Coinbase came out with X402, which is the crypto application of the 402 standard, which is like, I expect the payment in USDC on base before giving access to this resource that you're trying to consume. It's like an API, or it can be like a hidden page, it can be an article, it can be a book that you're selling, it can be something that you're putting out there that you want people to pay for. And you can set the amount, and then you can check the chain for essentially the verification of that transaction, and then release the resource once that's there. And that's possible thanks to essentially crypto as the rails. And I think all these other use cases can be done as well with crypto as rails, like paying for travel. There's Travala. There's like other platforms that accept crypto as payments. For real estate, I already showed you Proppy. They're doing cool stuff on chain. You can now like port that to like leasing platforms where you just rent stuff with crypto. And then taxes, man, like even now, 2025 is still a pain to file your crypto taxes. I know how many of you had to go through hundreds or thousands of transactions and then figure out, oh, when did I buy this? And then what transaction attaches to what did I sell now versus like 3 years ago that I bought on some weird exchange that doesn't work anymore. So we have all this information on chain. Can we just get it with AI, process it real quick, and then get it done? So I'm really excited about that future. So I'm going to leave you with 3 easy things to try out. This code will take you to docs.civic.com. So in case you're weirded out by scanning an anonymous QR code, it's docs.civic.com. It won't steal your keys. But I think when it comes to AI agents, question every agent. Like, what do they do? What data do they have access to? What MCP servers are we bringing in? Did we just copy a third-party anonymous MCP server from a GitHub that we don't know where it came from? We didn't verify the code, and now we're just letting it run wild in our database. Who can see what that agent is doing? Is it just the user? Is it the whole org? Is it a third party because it calls another endpoint where it sends some information that you don't want it to send? So make sure you have that visibility control built in. And then, yeah, try out our SDK. It's free to start. It's a very, very friendly builder plan. And we have also a special offer for friendly builders. We have a 10K credit program that's running now. So if you're building with CivicAuth and you want to showcase it, build in public, tell us, send us a note at bd@civic.com, and we'll give you some credits to work with beyond the generous free tier. So I think at the end of the day, trust shouldn't be a patch. It should be a default feature. All agents should have a form of identity. and we should be able to track what they are doing and not issue like an anonymous central one that commingles data. Otherwise, we end up like Asana in this case. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, apologies for that, guys. Away from the speaker, I've learned my lesson. We have some questions. Can we go to the next slide? Oh. Okay, so how long until we start assigning AI agents a digital identity?
I mean, I would argue that we've already started. If you add an UUID, like a unique identifier to the AI agent, once you spin up a session, that's already a form of identity for that agent. So you're making a call. Instead of making that call completely kind of anonymized and centralized, like you're making that call on my behalf, add a unique identifier to it so that you can go back and see it in the logs. Hey, this call belonged to Titus, and it was done at this time, and it had this scope. And that's, I think, for the AI agent, it's a form of identity. It's not going to be as complex as the human identity, but like we have to start somewhere.
So how is it easy to use Civic to create full-blown set of accounts for AI agent?
So you can get up and running with auth in under 5 minutes. I've tried it myself. You can just like ask Claude Code. It's like, hey, here's the docs for this React implementation of auth. Get the client ID from auth.civic.com, and it's up and running. Now, if you want to add agentic AI identity, then you need to integrate one of the labs components that we have. I think the proxy middleware is one to try out. The AI hub is another one to try out. Those are still in alpha, so I would say get in touch with our dev team. Our CTO will be more than happy to walk you through exactly how it works. They made sure to go through the hard part, which means managing like token, authentication token life, making sure that the AI stays connected to your endpoints, so you only have to integrate essentially the SDK for it. But yeah, we're looking for feedback for that part. It's still early days. Hope I answered both questions.
Do we have any more questions? Anyone in the audience that would like to ask a question? Okay, I have a question for you. How long until we see agents going mainstream, as in being widely utilized by companies and individuals? But when I say AI agents, I mean more than just ChatGPT, agents that can autonomously act on your behalf.
So I would argue they're already there in a few orgs. Like I, for example, have automation that gives me social media posts every day about the topics that I'm interested in and I want to post about to my audience. And every day I get a notification on my phone. It's like, hey, your posts are ready for review. That's one use of AI agents. I think a year ago I would have said 5 years. Today I'm going to say 1.5 to 2 years. I think it's all moving extremely fast. And as we're building these foundational tools, it'll be easier and easier for people to integrate and to deploy safely. Because I think if you're giving, again, right access to an AI agent into your database, there's going to be a level of error to it. And if you are not able to catch that error and then roll back, then that error compounds over time. That's the problem with agentic AI in a recursive way, because that's what MCP enables. If you start out with a 5% error, and that compounds every iteration, then at the end of it, you get almost 100% error. So you need to be able to separate the error from the correct output and also have a rollback mechanism. But that's all like being built right now as a infrastructure.
Thank you. I think, do you have a question, sir? Did you try to raise your hand? Oh, one more question. Okay. Yeah, could you please come? I was afraid. Oh, let me turn on your mic.
My question is actually about the mistakes. How do you catch those little mistakes, and what's the probability of the mistake when you do, for example, the taxation of your crypto? That can be a crucial one.
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was building with LLMs in the mix, like a data pipeline, we had to prevent hallucinations a lot of the times. For example, GPT loves to invent phone numbers and email addresses. It loves it. Like it doesn't find it and like, no, it's this company at whatever.com. It's like this name at, no, it's not that. So you need to go back to your data source and have some mechanical checks. That's one way of looking at it. It's like, hey, does this data that I was expecting match the source data? Even though I've transformed it, like I still need to have some anchors from the original data. Kind of like how you would check the work of a person, right? That's processing your data. You're sending it to a BPO, it's coming back, it's sort of the same thing. The other thing that you can do is you can have an adversarial approach to it, where you have one LLM that's the producer LLM, and you have another language model or 2 or 3 other models that need to agree with each other that this initial LLM did the work right, which is a mixture of experts implementation that some companies do internally, but you can also like kind of mix and match and combine your models to obtain the final output that's like of high quality versus letting one model decide everything on its own. Those are kind of a few options today that you can do. And then if you want to catch, and you want to also roll back, so you want to save at least 1 or 2 versions of history of that particular data point to know like what actually was changed. So you can go back and say like, hey, this was bad. No, let's roll back to the previous step.